Once again, I want to express our heartfelt appreciation for everyone who made it on time. It shows dedication, it shows commitment, and that is actually a great first step towards accessing this wealth of information and knowledge that this community seeks to disseminate. We are going to be kickstarting at this moment. I believe that we have enough people to make this awesome. So first of all, my name is Victor Emmanuel. I am the event coordinator of this amazing brand, Christech Analytics, and I'll be your host for today, or your moderator, if you will. I'll be a moderator for today. This is the data-driven decision-making webinar that was put together by the amazing brand Christech Analytics. So we have a speaker who is very much enlightened about this issue, about this field, who is going to be taking us through a rigorous but also a rigorous yet informative session on data-driven decision making, and that is none other than our founder of this community, of this brand, Mr. Christopher Oyeneke. If you are appreciative of the work that he's doing, you could just send him some reactions. He's currently in the chat, and I believe that he's going to be encouraged by those reactions. So send in some reactions. Mr. Christopher is the visionary founder of Christech Analytics, a dedicated data science community driven by a powerful mission to empower individuals to unlock their full career potentials by mastering data-driven strategy. I think at this point, I would like to hand over to our visionary founder, Mr. Christopher Oyeneke, to take us on an explosive session on data-driven decision making. Please put your hands together. Please show those reactions. Let's welcome a wonderful person. Okay, I'm sorry, Christopher. I asked for this and I forgot to mention. So let me just quickly give you guys an insight to who is going to be speaking to you. Mr. Christopher of the Christech Analytics community has achieved significant success in translating data into tangible results, including successfully mentoring individuals who have gone on to secure roles in the data science and analytics field. Please, if you're amazed, if you're encouraged, keep those reactions coming. Him and his brand has also helped to guide businesses in applying predictive analytics to solve critical problems. It is my honor, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Christopher Oyeneke.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, welcome again, everyone. Welcome to this impactful webinar, to this impactful session. It's nice to have every one of you here. I'll be sharing my screen right now so that you can see what we have. We are looking at an interesting topic at this hour. If you can see my screen, just confirm that. Welcome again and welcome to this impactful webinar. And today, we're going to be looking at the topic, data-driven decision making. And our goal is very simple. We're going to bridge the gap between intuition and evidence. And there are two major things we'll be looking at today. The first one is having a clear understanding of the difference between intuition and evidence, that is guessing and knowing. And secondly, we're going to look at a 4-step framework that you can implement immediately to make data-driven decisions. Now we're going to look at the core concepts, moving beyond gut feeling to a quantifiable, repeatable business strategy. Now, if you look at it, many businesses, many individuals, they when making decisions, they focus more on gut feeling and they rely more on guesswork, right? And having to rely, it wouldn't give you like a quantifiable or give you evidence-based approach when making decisions. And when you make decisions based on your gut feeling, it's not going to come with confidence because you're not really sure if what you're doing is the right thing or the wrong thing. That's why we're introducing data-driven decision making. We're going to look at the difference between intuition versus evidence. Now, these two words are very different. So this slide shows the critical shift we must embrace, right? So on the left side, we have intuition-based decisions. And these intuition-based decisions rely on past events or biases, maybe what have happened to you, right, over time, right? You make decisions based on that or based on your belief. We have what we call the data-driven decision. This uses verified facts, objective analysis, and gives you a clear audit trail. So in this case, if a decision works, you know exactly why it works. And if a decision fails, you know exactly why it fails. That's the benefit of utilizing data-driven decision because you would know what works, you would know what fails, and because everything is quantifiable, everything is calculated, everything is managed, everything is scaled. But in the other aspect of intuition, it's more of guesswork, it's more of gut feeling, and that kind of intuition can be a risk to your own personal beliefs, right? Believing in something, then using that your belief to take action. So we're going to move to the next slide, talking about the business value of data-driven decision making. According to McKinsey Global Institute, organizations that are highly data-driven are 19 times more likely to be profitable and 23 times more likely to acquire customers than their non-data driven peers. So look at this statement. Organizations that employ data driven decisions, they have 19 times profitability in their business compared to businesses that doesn't utilize data. And even yourself, look at it locally and look at it everywhere. Look at businesses that utilize data when making decisions. They take actions in they have more confidence. Yes, that's the word. They have much more confidence when taking actions, right? So the difference is very clear. That's why I encourage individuals, I encourage businesses to utilize data-driven decisions rather than just relying on your gut feeling or intuition. Now, look at the confidence in decision making. Confidence in decision making. Percentage of leaders who feel very confident in their strategic choices. I don't know if you are following me so far. If I can get a confirmation. All right. All right, that's good. So let's continue. So percentage of leaders who feel very confident in their strategic choices, right? So intuition-led organizations, they have 35% confidence. Just take a good look at it. 35% confident. Then look at the aspect of data-driven organizations. They have 85% confidence now. So let's break it down, right? Organizations that utilize data-driven decisions, right, have this amount of confidence. So there is no like two ways about it. Okay, this might work, this might not work. Your data and the analysis you've done on your data would give you evidence. Okay, this would work. It removes that confusion from you. It removes that confusion. It tells you what is likely to happen. This would work, this would not work, this is how it's going to be. This is so having this kind of confidence, right, is going to lead to profitability, right? But organizations that rely on gut feeling, there are sometimes they would, yes, sometimes they will get things right, but most of the time they will also fail things. Now we're going to move to the next slide. One of the most important aspects of this webinar, the four-step framework for making data-driven decision. The four-step framework. Now, this is very simple. This is very simple. It's nothing to bite yourself about. We're going to take it from the first to the last, right? So the first step when trying to use data-driven decision, the first step is to define the problem. Define the problem. You don't just start looking for data when you don't know the problem you want to solve. So the first step is to understand and know the issue at hand and know what you are trying to solve. You have to be able to articulate the problem. So don't just look at the data. Start with a question. Why is this happening like this? Why did the profit of this organization reduce drastically? Why are customers bouncing back when they visit your website? These are key questions that you ask first. Then that takes us to the next step, which is collection of data. After you've been able to ask the right question, after you've been able to understand and know the problem at hand, then you would move to knowing the kind of data you need that would solve that problem, right? So it's talking about gathering evidence, gathering evidence. Now, what something that differentiates intuition from evidence-based decision making, right? You have to gather data that cuts across all aspects, that is beyond your bias, that is beyond your belief, right? Don't take data that answers your belief already, that because of I think this certain way, let me take a data that justifies my belief. No, you wouldn't have an accurate result, right? So you get relevant data that you need, right? And you have to identify trusted data sources. You don't just collect data anyhow, right? You get trusted data sources, right? And ensure that the data is clean, relevant, and comprehensive. The more the data you have, the more you are likely to make a more proper analysis. And that takes us to the next step, which is analyze. Right? After you've collected your data, you've ensured that your data is clean, you've ensured that the source is validated, then you move to the next step of analyzing the data. You find patterns between different variables in your data. Yes, if it's a structured data, we have rows and columns. You start to identify relationships. What is the relationship between column A and column B? What relates them together? What's happening? So you find patterns between all these variables, and you use tools to visualize trends, right? If you want to understand what exactly is happening in your data set, that is where you enter visualization. You need to visualize your data set to understand patterns, to understand trends, to look for correlations, to identify outliers and several aspects too in your data, right? So that's the next step, analysis, right? And this takes us to the last step. After you've been able to analyze data, you've been able to explore it, you've been able to get some insights, some descriptions from your data, then you move to action. Now, what is this action talking about? This insight that you've gotten from your data, what can you do with it? How can you use it to solve the problem? What are the recommendations you can talk about, right, based on your analysis? That's where the action comes about. It's about execution and monitoring. It translates those your insights you've done in, that is the analysis, it translates it into specific business actions, because the main goal is to improve the quality of businesses. The main goal of data driven solution is to improve the quality, the profitability of businesses. So after all your analysis and the rest, if you cannot use that insight to improve a business, then it's just like wasting your time. So it's to put your insight into action. Let me not dwell too much in this slide. I believe you've been able to understand the framework properly, the steps involved in data driven decision making, to define, to collect, analyze, and lastly, to act on your insights. Now, we'll be looking at a case study, which is Netflix. Okay, my light just went off. Yeah, but we still keep going. Let us take Netflix as a very good example, right? So, most movie industries, when they want to release a new movie, they first release a pilot episode, and the purpose of the pilot episode is to test the movie that they want to produce, if it's going to gather audience, if it's going to be profitable. So that's what most movie industries do. They first set up or bring up a pilot episode. But let us take Netflix as a good example. The one of the first movie that Netflix brought about, that is The House of Cards. Guess what happened? They didn't release any pilot episode. They utilized data-driven decision making. Yes, they utilized data-driven decision making. And through this process, they were able to identify actors that are very popular. They were able to identify directors that people do have great interest in. They analyzed a whole lot of data sets to really make sure that the decision they want to make in releasing the House of Cards series, it's going to be a hit, right? So after all the analysis they performed on millions of data points, performed analysis on director popularity, they performed analysis on the viewing habits of users, they performed all of this, right? And after the analysis, without releasing a pilot episode, they just launched the movie. And what they speculated, that was how it was. Why? They utilized data-driven decision making. So with this understanding, it should throw more light to you, to let you know how important it is to make data-driven decision rather than relying on your gut feeling or intuition. Imagine Netflix just relied on their gut feeling, maybe because of a few people enjoy a particular kind of movie, they just decided to release a similar one based on their gut feeling that, okay, since they like this movie, they will also like this one. They must they might have entered into a very great loss. But no, they didn't do this by intuition. They did this by data-driven solutions. And you can see the green light towards it, right? They invested over $100 million without seeing a single pilot episode, right? So this is a very important case study to tell you how important it is to start utilizing data-driven decision in everything you do in your business, even individually or where you find yourself. Which takes us to the next episode, other applications of data driven decision making. Yes, the retail and the e-commerce industry, yes, they utilize data driven decision making, right? So the problem in most retail industry, high inventory costs and stock out. What is this trying to say? They invent and they innovate more products, right, at high cost, and they end up not selling all their products. There are still so many left unsold, right? Now, what is the data solution to this problem? Predictive analytics. Yes, predictive analysis on seasonal buying trends to automate reordering, reducing waste. by 20%. So what is this trying to say? Right, you can use predictive analysis to visualize trends in past sales, to know which certain month, to know which certain quarter of the year that customers buy a particular product, and another part of the month that customers don't really buy a particular product. With this understanding, utilizing data, they would know the kind of product to produce more that would sell very well, rather than just producing by intuition and hoping that everything gets sold, right? So that's that. Even the healthcare industry, they utilize data-driven solutions, as well as the finance industry. So because of time, we're going to move ahead to the next slide. But I believe you are all following so far. I believe you are getting something from this topic. Now let us look at the tools of the trade. We've been talking about data-driven solutions, data-driven decision making, data-driven. Yes, we know it's data-driven, but what are the tools involved, right? What tools do you work with to actually analyze data, right? Now let us look at Excel. You can work with Excel. Excel is like the basis of data analysis. You use it to perform basic analysis on your data set, right? You can figure out some things like the mean, the average, the median, the mode. You can visualize trends, just perform some basic analysis, right? So you can make use of Excel, right? Then we have Python. Python is a more high level programming language. You can use it to perform more complex analysis. You can use it to build predictive models or classification models. You can use it to do a lot more that can help businesses. So that's Python for you, Python and SQL. SQL is very important when you have to retrieve certain data from a large data source, a large data set, right? Then we have another tool called Tableau or Power BI. You can use these tools to build nice dashboards, nice KPIs that you can use to know or give insight to your data, right? So these are all important tools that you can work with for analysis. And over time in Christech Analytics community, we're going to start working on these tools to know how to utilize them, right? We're going to take it gradually. We're going to take it gradually. Now let's look at the common pitfalls to avoid. The common pitfalls to avoid. Now, let's look at confirmation bias. I spoke about this earlier, right? That's the dangerous tendency to search for or interpret or recall information that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. It's going to give you a poor result, right? It's going to disapprove your theory because the data source you're going for is to justify your own belief. So it's still going to be a bias analysis, right? So that is something you should avoid. Don't source for data that justifies what you believe in. Source for relevant data, and even source for the ones that would disapprove your own theory.
Excuse me, Mr. Christopher, please, your slides are not changing. I don't know, it's kind of stuck. Could you help us check that? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for notifying that. I didn't even know. Okay, so I will just continue with the presentation. So I've explained what confirmation bias is all about. Now let's look at analysis paralysis. Yes, it sounds like a complex word, right? But let's look at what it's talking about. That is over analyzing data to the point where no decision is made. Yes, so many analysts fall into this category whereby they get their data, they know the problem, they get their data, but they end up in a cycle of over analyzing the data set to the point that they don't even know the kind of recommendation or insight to give anymore. And you have to remember this: at all point that a timely decision based on 80% data is very much better than a perfect decision made too late, right? The importance of data-driven decision making is to make decisions on time, because everything works with a time frame. The moment the time frame gets exceeded, your analysis is as good as nothing because you've not utilized it at the appropriate time. Try and avoid analysis paralysis. Don't dwell so much on a particular data. Do the needful, do the relationships, the trends you can do, and the insights you can get to give quick and on time insights to solve problems, right? Now, the last one is data quality issues. You have to understand something about data quality. There's what they call garbage in, garbage out. They call it GIGO, right? What you give to the computer will give it back to you. If you give your computer a wrong data set or a very poor data set, it's going to give you a very poor result. Garbage in, garbage out. Making decisions based on incomplete or outdated or inaccurate data, it will lead to strategic failure. Yes. So you have to make sure that your data is validated, your data is clean, your data source is reliable before you start your analysis. Now, how do you start making data driven decisions today? It's not something that you hold on or you wait before you have a very big opportunity or a very big business. It's something that you can start utilizing like right now, right? Now, you have to start small. You have to start small. Do not try to overhaul your entire business strategy at once. Pick one specific question. For instance, when is the best time to send emails, right? Or several questions. Ask questions, right? Any decision you want to make, ask questions. How do I go about it? What is the best way to go about it, right? What data do I need to analyze to get a quantifiable result, a quantifiable means to make this decision? So you have to start small. Not don't wait till you get something big. The next aspect is question assumptions. Don't just assume something and just go for it. You have to question assumptions. Whenever you or your colleague says I think, ask them what data supports that your thoughts, right? So you have to cultivate a culture of evidence. And the other aspect is learn the basics. Learn the basics. You don't need to be a guru data scientist or a very professional data analyst in your field before you start learning the basics. So master some basics of analysis. Learn how to use Excel. Learn how to use some basic tools for data analysis to start making data-driven decisions. It's never too late. You don't have to wait for you to have the kind of gig you're looking for. You can start utilizing data-driven solutions now, right? So that is going to be the end of this presentation, right? And I believe you all have been able to get a lot of information that you can utilize to help you make best decisions, to help you make data-driven decisions, not just relying on your gut feeling or guessing. So we're going to move to question and answer. So let us get the questions rolling. Okay.
Hi, everyone. So please, if you have any question that you would love some clarification on based on everything that our very knowledgeable and um, our very knowledgeable founder has spoken on, everything that he has spoken on, please, if you have any question, drop them in the chat box. Just to your right, you will see a chat icon, a message icon. You can click on that icon and drop your questions. We will take them on a first come, first serve basis. So please, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them and we would attend to them. In the meantime, let me just quickly appreciate every one of us again for joining this wonderful event. Personally, I have learned a lot. I hope that we were jotting or we were taking notes, because I believe that notes in and of itself is also data. And if we want to, show that we are even learning anything here, we should be taking notes. I was taking notes, and I hope that you were too. But by and large, thank you all for um, you know, listening. We are still awaiting those questions. If you have any, please do so. Please drop them in the comments. I beg your pardon, in the chats section.
Okay, so while we all drop our question, I would like to inform you all of our activity next week. After the end of this presentation, by next week, we're going to be having our challenge, hands-on practice, to make sure that you've gotten something from this webinar. So that is going to happen next week, and it's going to be coordinated by our challenge coordinator. That's that. So who has question? You can bring your question up before we round up the event.
Already while you were speaking, somebody did ask a question. They said, can we get the slides after? They are referring to your slides. Is it possible for participants to get access to these slides?
Okay, yeah. So for the slides, after this webinar, we're going to be posting the slides in the resources group in the community, in the WhatsApp community. We're going to post it in the resources group, as well as the platform we're utilizing, Google Classroom. We're going to post the slide in Google Classroom. We have a platform there which I would enlighten you on later on. Right. So yes, the slide is going to be posted in the resources group in the community. Thank you. We have a hand that is being raised. Okay, you can ask your question, Joshua Cyril. Yes.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening. Oh, from this side though. My
Yeah, good.
question is, when you said something about analysis paralysis, you said it's when you overanalyze the data, and I'm just like, I don't know, like when you say overanalyze, what do you mean? Because every analysis has insights. Do you like, so when you say overanalyze, is there really a way to overanalyze data? Because I mean, yes, you could
Yeah.
do something less, but over analyzing it, do you think it's possible? Just what do you mean?
Okay. So when I talk about analysis paralysis, I'm referring to like overanalyzing data beyond the time frame that the insights gotten from the data should be utilized. If you are analyzing a data set, you also have to be conscious that the insight is needed at a particular time. And if it exceeds that time, your analysis is not going to be useful anymore based on that situation, right? And analysis paralysis can put you in that situation. So that is what overanalysis can do, and that is what it means. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, yeah, welcome. Your questions can still come in.
Okay, so we have another question. So Data Sense AI asks, hi, so I have a question. How do you balance speed and accuracy when a decision needs to be made as soon as possible? How do you balance speed and accuracy when a decision needs to be made as soon as possible?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So many people ask the same question. Do you work with speed and at the same time accuracy? Yeah, accuracy, right? When a decision needs to be made quickly, right? So yes, you have to understand that when it comes to data analysis, you're analyzing a data set, there's always a workflow, right? Which I've explained in this webinar that I believe we've all gotten something from. There's always a workflow. You don't skip one process to jump to another process, right? Because if you're trying to be fast and you are trying to hurry up and you skip a process, you are likely not to give an accurate insight, right? You might be fast, but even if you are fast, but you are producing or you are giving out a inaccurate result, it's still as good as nothing, right? So speed and accuracy is needed. You have to balance it, right? And by balancing it, you have to follow the workflow. You have to understand the problem. There is nothing like understanding your problem that you want to solve. If you don't have a proper understanding, you will spend much more time working on that project. But if you have a very solid understanding, you grasp the problem that you're trying to solve, it's going to be very easy for you to go through the other framework, the other workflow process to get your analysis and your insights ready on time and with accuracy. I believe I've been able to answer your question, right? All right, I'm getting an acknowledgement. Yes, that's good.
Um, I think Mr. Joshua is raising up his hand, but we let me just say that would probably be our last question for now. If you do have any more questions, please drop it um in the hub group. So, Mr. Joshua, could we hear
Um,
from you, please?
yeah, it's not really a question. I just wanted to throw more light on what Chris said because I've been in a lot of situations where you have a project and you need to submit it to the client or to the boss or to the stakeholders like immediately. So it's very difficult. I understand what that person is trying to say. How do you balance it? Well, what I will just say is, first of all, I think even the developers know this. You don't just when you have a project, you don't just open your Python script or just open your page or open your Excel. First of all, you need to have a strategy, and I think that's the smartest thing to do. That is what every successful business or company does. First of all, you need to have a strategy. Even when you're doing the technical stuff, get a sheet of paper. Just even if it's a whatever it is, just have a strategy like a workflow. Just write it down. Okay, I'm going to do this first, and then after this I'm going to do this. It just makes it easier because if you just open your tool and you just want to start using, you definitely get confused because and confusion will waste your time, and your it just end up like your data won't even your results won't be accurate, so you just mess you up. If you actually sit down, I know it's going to be difficult when you know that you only have like you need to submit this project before the end of today and you only have few minutes left. You understand? Like you should like to just sit down and open your another tool and start typing out the things you need to do. But it works, to be honest. It works because when you know what you need to do and you follow like a framework, it's actually very very easy. So I'll just say just plan and strategize first. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So that brings us to the end of this amazing event where I have personally learned so much. I don't know if you've learned anything today. If you have, please just give us some reaction. Let us know that we had scholars in the house. So let me just quickly thank everyone for taking our time to be a participant in this webinar. We thank our founder, Mr. Christopher, for enlightening us and giving us so much knowledge and tools to help us utilize data in our everyday life. Like our founder said, please remember that this incoming week, we are going to be having our challenge week. It's going to be recurrent every second week of the month. We would implement everything we have learned from the first week so that we grow in this community. So next week, we're going to be doing a challenge that is related to everything we've learned today. And please keep your eyes peeled for information on the announcements and the hub group. And lastly, I would like to encourage us to tell our friends and business partners, colleagues about this community. I promise you, we may have very humble beginnings right now, but we do have a lot to share and we do have a lot of insight to give. I can vouch for that. So please tell people about the community, share, share, share. Thank you once more for joining. That will be the end. My name is Victor Emmanuel again, and I was your moderator, and I'm the event coordinator for Christech Analytics. Thank you. See you guys soon.